All right. Well, welcome everyone. We'll have more people joining us probably in a few minutes here as people kind of start signing in. But as people do that, we'll connect with each other here in a few different ways to remind us all of how we can, as we're listening and participating in the Lucy Warbler presentation, we can join in a couple different ways. One is the group chat, and to find a group chat, you just hover over your screen and there's a little icon, a thought bubble icon with the word chat underneath of it. You can click on that, and it's good to see that people are already using that. Greg from Port Arthur, Texas talks about his black-bellied whistling ducks on his garage. Whoa, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
It's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Greg. You know, it's always good to participate through the chat function, whether it's comment like that or some insight that you might have as well. But throughout the presentation, I'm sure some questions will come up for you. And I would encourage you to write down your questions in the chat box. I'll be monitoring that, and at appropriate times, we'll ask Olya those questions, and she'll share with us all of her Lucy Warbler knowledge when it comes to that. So yeah, just use that as you see fit. And then also at other times there will be an opportunity for you, if you want to ask your question verbally, you can do so by raising your hand, and not so much raising your hand physically, because I probably won't see you with all the different screens that are on here, but to raise your hand virtually. The way to do that is if you have your participant list up, that little icon is right next to the chat where it shows a couple of different people and the participants. You click on that. Then at the bottom of that little screen that pops up, it'll say invite, unmute me, or raise hand. And you would just click on raise hand, and then that will just notify us that you have something that you'd like to say, and we'll unmute you at that time. And also just I know most of you, but some of you I haven't met yet, so just an introduction for myself. My name is Luke Safford, and I coordinate our volunteer program and our Southeast Arizona Birding Festival, and then also these different engagement opportunities. So if you have any questions about these things, feel free to let me know, shoot me an email. I'd love to help you all out. And oh, Vaughn says, this is the first time I've seen you without a mask. Yeah, I don't have a mask anyway in my office. So yeah, you get to see everyone without their masks on. It's a good thing these days, I guess. So different. Anyways, yeah, so we're really happy to be here today talking about Lucy's Warblers. Olya Phillips is our citizen science coordinator. She's just been doing awesome work, not just with Lucy Warblers, but a lot of the other birds that we are, you know, trying to find out more about, so we can help them and be a part of, you know, bringing more life to this great area of Southeast Arizona. And been doing work along the Santa Cruz River too, with point counts and all sorts of cool stuff. So Olya, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and you can start sharing your screen if you want, and share with us about everything that we've been doing with Lucy's Warblers. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you everyone for joining today. I see a lot of familiar faces and names, if not faces. Let's see, I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Okay. Luke, do I have the right screen up?
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right,
yep.
Sounds good. All right, so a lot of you may have already heard about our work with Lucy's Warblers. We've been doing it for quite a few years now. We've added a couple new studies just this year, so I'm really excited to share with you guys what we found and what we will be doing in the future. But I always like to start with talking about how special Lucy's Warblers are, because it doesn't hurt to reiterate how special these birds are, and that they are right here in our homes. Lucy's warblers are tiny, gray, and shy, but they're so unique. They're one of only 2 cavity nesting warblers in North America, the other being the prothonotary warbler. They're also the only warbler to nest in the lowland Sonoran Desert here. No other bird is as closely tied to a single tree species as Lucy's warblers are to mesquite trees. They use them for foraging and nesting. They arrive in Tucson starting March, about mid-March. They start nesting before a lot of the local birds. By April and May is when the peak nesting activity is. They also have 2 broods per season, so they usually wrap up by first or second week of June. They're also a dense nester for not being in the colony type nesting. They're actually very densely nested because if there's enough food and enough cavities nearby, then they're able to coexist. In fact, we actually documented them nesting just inches apart, as you can see in this picture here. So even though this is a very unique species, they're very understudied. Part of the reason may be their limited range. It mostly is centered in Arizona. The little red dot is Tucson, which puts us in the perfect spot to study them here. Also, Western species have a tendency of being of low study numbers. Ornithological studies tend to be very Eastern centric. Tucson is right in the heart of their breeding range. A lot of their breeding phenology remains poorly documented. This is a little screen grab from Cornell's Birds of the World website with their profile for Lucy's warblers. Not only is there little information about these birds, there's also a bit of a misinformation out there, which this is also from Cornell's. This paper from Brush in 1983 keeps getting misquoted of saying that Lucy's warblers will not use nest boxes, unlike other cavity nesters. And in fact, that paper said that Lucy's warblers did not use the nest boxes in their study, but that doesn't mean that Lucy's warblers will not use nest boxes, period. So what we know now is that it was just a matter of the right nest box. Currently, Lucy's warblers are identified as a species of conservation concern by Arizona Game and Fish, and a focus species for important bird areas in Arizona. Like most other species, Lucy's warblers suffer from habitat destruction in their breeding range, especially. Large cavity bearing mesquites are scarcer due to declining water tables, development, and over pruning in the urban areas. Urban mesquites are capable of providing sufficient foraging opportunities, but they often lack the cavities used by the birds, so they often move on to other areas. But it is possible to have them nest in an urban area with the addition of a nest box. So our studies are designed to develop the best conservation plan for the species, and for that we need to learn more about them. Our very first project started with community reports. This is the true definition of a community science coming together. We started getting pictures of Lucy's warblers. Sometimes people would not know what bird it was nesting in their decorative nest box. Sometimes they would know what it was and wanted to share. And it was unconventional nest boxes, like decorative or gourds or something that was put out with, not knowing really what would use eventually. And that led us to develop our initial 5 designs you see here. They ranged from typical looking rectangle with a circular entrance to a PVC pipe design. And that design was based off a reported nest that was inside a metal pole holding up a sign. So that really speaks to how heat tolerant Lucy's warblers are nesting in a metal pole. We also located natural nests in mesquite trees, and it often was in peeling bark like you see here, or it was in branches that were buckling under their own weight and creating these crevices. And what we noticed was that there was an apparent preference for 2 points of exit. And what we did was we created a nest box which biomimics the 2 exit nest system, the triangle design. We then needed to have our little Lucy's Warbler focus groups tell us exactly what type of nest box they actually prefer. So we installed 60 experimental points to test our designs by using populations of Lucy's warblers to tell us that. We chose 3 locations, 7B Birding Trail in Mammoth, which has a wonderful mesquite bosque woodland. It's a favorite of Lucy's warblers. There is also Tancaverde Wash in East Tucson, where the green belt around the creek spans in narrow strips. And the Dianza Trail in Tubac, where the river flows year-round and provides a riparian area with cottonwoods and other trees. Each location, we knew that there were Lucy's warbler populations there. So this study was funded by grants from Tracy Aviary and by Arizona Sportsmen for Wildlife conservation grants, as well as private donations. So I want to take a minute to say a huge thank you for making this possible, because we wouldn't be able to do it without that. So in this picture on the right, you see what 1 point looks like. So there's a bunch of nest boxes. We varied the order in which we put them up on the tree so that we know that the Lucy's warblers are going for a specific design and not just its location on a tree. So by having that many points, that many boxes, and that many years of data, we know that our data is strong. This is a graph of the results from the last 3 years. It may be a little bit hard to read on your screen. On the bottom, we have the types of nest boxes here. The first 2 categories are large triangle and small triangle. Those were the 2 different designs of triangle we tried with different volumes. And the large triangle came out on top each year. Then it was kind of interesting to see this year, which is in green, 2020, we had an upsurge of Lucy's warblers nesting in the PVC pipes. So that was interesting. But you can really see that we have strong data to show that we do have a preference for triangle nest boxes. So we had 3 solid years, and then so we know that we can use the triangle nest box to study other things. For example, the height preference. The height experiment was designed to see if there's a preference for a nesting height. Last year, we tested heights of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 feet off the ground. And the data showed that they were going for 9 feet off the ground the most, which was the highest we offered at the time. So this year we decided to put them even higher at 12 and 15 feet and see if Lucy's warblers do in fact like that sweet spot of 9 feet off the ground, or if they just decide to go as high as possible. And we studied 60 points of those as well. And our categories on the bottom are 5, 7, 9, 12, and 15 feet. Each color represents different location. And it looks like we, again, have our highest category being selected for the most. And there's, it doesn't vary so much by location. So it doesn't matter so much about canopy cover and things like that. But all the nest boxes were installed on the same side of the tree in mostly the same conditions, and they were still going for the highest offered nest box. So what does that mean for your nest box at home? I would say install it to your best ability. I don't want you to be falling off the tree trying to put it up at 15 feet or something. But if you do have higher foot traffic near the nest box, I do recommend that you put it up higher off the ground to create more of a security for this shy species. But what is I found most important is having the cover and shade nearby. So that's really what they're going for in my experience. But it's also good to know that they are going for the highest offered. We also tested direction preference for the first time this year. Our recommendation has always been to install nest boxes north to east orientation to avoid harsh afternoon sun. We have seen Lucy's warblers nest in metal pipes, like I said, so I know they're heat tolerant, but is there really a direction preference? So yet again, we had 60 points of a point looks like just like this. They were all at 9 feet at 4 directions, compass directions. So first I'd like to share and break down the compass direction. So interestingly, the western exposure came out on top. But if we think about it, the front of the front of the nest box was facing west. That means that the 2 openings were north and south. So that adds another dimension of what they like. We also compared them by location. So the colors represent compass direction, but on the bottom here on the x-axis, we see their by location. So we have Isabella Lee, which we mentioned this morning, and then we have Two Back and Mammoth. And interestingly, Mammoth had the most difference where we see east and west exposure the most. And Mammoth is a very dense woodland, a lot of cover, mostly hardly any exposure of direct sun during the day. So it's a little bit, we need to really dig in and see what we get next year to add to our data set and see if there is a preference year after year, as well as consider what our locations are like. Overall, with these experiments, we had 165 nests this year with 4 to 5 eggs in each nest. We estimate 660 to 825 potential fledged young. We also have over 3,000 Lucy's warbler nest boxes out on the landscape as of today. We have a lot of wonderful nest box trails. Tohono Chul has one. We also have them in West Desert Trails in Green Valley. Those are just a couple examples, but also homeowners that install them and register their nest boxes really contributes to our understanding of our reach, as well as to help us keep track of the distribution of successful nests. For example, we're trying to turn urban habitat into viable breeding habitat, which we can track by mapping all the registrations of the nest boxes. All right. Do we have any questions before I move on to the next one, Luke?
Yeah, we do. All right, let's get to some of them. So let's start with the most recent. How can owners register their nest boxes?
Yeah, good question. So if you buy a nest box, a Lucy's Warbler nest box at our nature shop or at the Tohono Chuo nature shop, a little instruction sheet that tells you how to install the nest box. It'll include a little link where you will go and fill out a small form. All we ask is how you installed it, what tree, how high off the ground, and then either cross streets or your address. So we only use that to map and look at the successful ones. Or if you build your own nest box, you can find the link on our website, which I will include at the end of this presentation and in the email follow-up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We could put the link in the email too.
Yeah, absolutely. Really helpful.
Like personally, I can't remember if I've registered mine or not.
You did.
Probably I haven't. So,
Jolene did.
oh, Jolene did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of that. Okay, she's on it. So yeah, you covered a recommended place for building instructions or where to buy from our nature shop or Tohono Chuo.
Yes, absolutely. And if you do want to make your own, we do provide a plan. They're really quite easy to make if you have all the right tools at home.
How big of a difference is the size difference between the large and the small triangles?
It's only about an inch off the sides that we took off to make a smaller volume inside. And we found that the smaller triangles, when they were using them, they were building up the sides a little bit higher with the nest. So it was deeper that way. And with the larger triangles, they didn't build up the sides with nesting material as much, and we're just using the volume of the nest box.
Lots of really good data, and someone was wondering if there's a place to view all this data. Is there a spot on our website with all this cool stuff?
Yes, so we have the results of these experiments, the ones that I'm going to be talking about for the rest of the presentation. I haven't posted yet. We might be talking a little bit about that in the future flycatcher issues. So you're really getting the first glimpse of our results here this year.
Cool. Someone noticed the lack of predator guards on the nest boxes. We do have, like, I mean, I know we have, predators that'll come in there and
Yes.
climb up the tree. So are you going to talk about that later, or why don't we have guards?
That's actually part of what we're trying to figure out with our studies that I'm going to be talking about right now. And we do know that that is an issue that happens with any type of cavity nester or non-cavity nester bird. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, but yeah, we're definitely working on creating a predator guard. And since this is a whole new type of nest box, we really kind of have to make our own design for the predator guard.
Cool. Yeah, a few more questions here. So Lois has one of the triangle boxes, and she's wondering if she's not sure how to tell if she has one of the bigger ones or the smaller ones. Is there a way to tell for that?
So we only sell the bigger triangle design. The only way you would have the smaller triangle if we were back in a couple years ago when we were giving out the whole replicate where there was like a few nest boxes put all together, but we only sell the large triangle and we only provide the plan for the large triangle design because that's the most successful one that we've seen. So most likely you have the larger one.
Cool. All right, a couple more questions. There's a lot coming in, but
I'm so excited.
It's really good. So Vaughn was wondering if there's competition for these boxes from other species or if it's just Lucy's warblers.
Excellent question. I forgot to mention that we've only had Lucy's warblers nest in these boxes. And that really shows how specific we are to their preferences. It seems to be too open for other cavity nesters, but then again, it's just enough that enclosed for Lucy's warblers to like it.
That's really interesting because, you know, you put up a nest box for bluebirds and you get, you know, all sorts of different
Yeah.
stuff. How high, so we talked about the different heights off of the ground. How is that measured from to the opening or to the bottom of the nest, or how is that measured?
We measure it to the side where you see this little parent perched right now. So we measure it to about the middle of the nest box,
Okay,
to the rim of the nest.
great. So Chris is wondering, the Lucy's warblers didn't nest in one of our nest boxes. They made their own. Do you still want that information? And
I
how?
do. I have a special link for you to share that information to.
Okay,
It would be great if we connected over email so I can provide more information, because we're still collecting more information on their natural nests, or if they're still using some decorative houses. We want to know.
great. Yeah, so Chris, if you want to respond to Olya in the follow-up email, that would probably be a great way to do
Yeah,
that.
please do.
And let's see. Tina is wondering what has to happen to update the information about Lucy's warblers on the Cornell website.
Yeah,
That's a complicated one, probably. Yeah.
working with Cornell's Nest Watch program, and they've already included the new plan and everything, but for some reason they haven't updated the Birds of the World website. So we're going to be working with them to change that to make sure that it reflects the most accurate information.
All right. And then the totals that you're talking about earlier, is that the experiment plus the community boxes or just the experiment?
So these 2020 totals I have on the screen right now are only from their experiment. So
Okay.
this is even think bigger when including also the homeowner registered nest boxes, definitely.
Cool. Are you good with a couple more questions or do you want to move on?
If they're relevant to what I was talking about
Okay.
earlier, that's fine, of course.
Yeah, so Julie asked about what are their predators. I know you're going to show a little video about one of their predators coming up.
Yeah, don't
Talk about that then.
yeah, the predators, we're still learning more about that, and I'm going to be talking a little bit just in the upcoming slide here, but
All right.
yeah.
And David, it looks like Paula kind of answered your question there, you know, having lots of activity nearby. I don't think that would discourage the warblers. I have a nest box that's really close to our house, right near where we often work out in our gardens, and they fledged fine even with us being right next to them.
Yeah.
Look, yeah. Do you have anything else to add there, Olya?
I would just say try to, if you haven't had any activity in like 2 years, I would say move it somewhere that has more surrounding small branches for security. Lucy's warblers like to hop around branches and then going into the nest box, and also provides shade and security for them. But if it's just the first year that you put it up and it didn't get used, it often takes them a little while to find it. So don't lose hope.
Cool. All right. Well, there are some more questions, but we'll get to those later if Olya doesn't mention it in the rest of her presentation. All right. Go
All
for it,
right.
Olya.
So, thank you, Luke. So this year we also had a grant from North American Bluebird Society. Some people may not realize, but North American Bluebird Society offers a wonderful grant opportunity to study any cavity nesting species here. We were very fortunate to receive funding from them to research for research using cameras to study Lucy's warbler breeding biology, because that really helps us keep track of them without disturbing them, first of all, and then second of all, we can't be constantly sitting next to every nest every minute and making notes, but with cameras we can really go back and see what was happening in there. So what we hope to address is timing required for nest building, incubation, nestling stage, fledging, and time between broods. All these things are either poorly documented or not documented at all in literature. So we are also, Lucy's warblers also get their nests parasitized by cowbirds and predated upon different animals. We were hoping to document this and try to develop a predator guard that would best accommodate the needs so that Lucy's warblers can still fit okay, but at the same time, the predator that we're seeing is not able to reach for the eggs, the nestlings, or the parent. Speaking of cowbirds, I was out in Tubac this June, making sure that all Lucy's warblers nesting activity has stopped, and I found that all but 2 nests have fledged. One of them was a Buick's wren nesting in the more enclosed nest box, not a triangle. And another had 1 single chick in it, and it didn't look right to be a Lucy's warbler. First of all, it was the size of a Lucy's warbler at fledging time, but yet it was completely naked. And the beak was also way too massive to be a Lucy's warbler. Yet Lucy's warbler parents were, bombarding me and defending their nest, and I quickly walked away after taking a couple pictures, and I knew right then that that was a cowbird chick. In fact, Tubac has a large population of cowbirds on the trail. That's really evident as soon as you get out of the car there. I went back 5 days later to document with the big lens camera and found that the chick has already left the nest and was being fed by the parents nearby. These pictures are not great because everything was happening very fast, way up high in the tree, and constantly obscured by branches. But you can really see the difference in size here. The parent is coming here, and the very hungry cowbird chick is demanding food. And in this picture, I thought it was kind of funny. The whole head of the parent fits inside the cowbird's beak. But we're considering making the nest box opening smaller to prevent cowbirds from accessing nests in the future. But out of the hundreds of nests we've had over the years, this is the first one we documented with a cowbird in it. But it's all really good information for us. For the camera study, yeah, that's right. So for the camera study, we had live cameras and we also had trail cameras, as you see here. Trail cameras are a lot more cost effective, and you can leave them out there in remote areas, and they're battery powered. And we did have to do a little bit of experimentation with them to get the perfect image up close. A lot of the trail cameras are designed to get deer from afar and things like that. So we used no glow type of camera so that it didn't light up the nest at night at any type of motion and didn't disturb the birds. We had 10 cameras, half of them we put up at a distance to see what kind of predators we might catch, and half of them we equipped with a close-up lens to catch the detail up close. All the cameras we used were no glow, like I said, so it didn't cause a problem being that close. And none of the nests failed that had a camera on it. So we're still looking for best ways to get good images, but I wanted to show you a couple examples of what we did get. This is a little bit blurry, so don't adjust your TVs. That's exactly what it looks like right now. Some of them are blurry and we're still tinkering with that, but the nest box was visited by a Buick's wren. You can see the eye line on there. We had a Gila woodpecker get in there, and every time Lucy's warblers defend their nest, and the nest fledged successfully. Some cameras got dislodged by what we think was mice, and we actually captured the culprit on a couple of times too. It didn't seem like they were messing with the nest also. We didn't catch a predation event, though some did occur that didn't have cameras on them. We suspect coati and raccoons and potentially ravens. We noticed that the nest was often pulled out in its entirety, and it was always either the eggs or the nestlings. It could also be snakes, of course. So we're still working on that. And I'm gonna show a little video of what else we caught with a different type of camera that we used. But these cameras work well. We didn't wanna go back too often to avoid disturbing Lucy's warblers. And the lens method has been quite good to capture things up close. We will continue to test best methods into the next season as well. Our biggest takeaway here is that we found a system that works, and this is cost effective because close-up trail cameras on the market right now cost about $300, but this setup is about $100, and most of that is just to buy the trail camera. So it really works, and it helps us study nests in remote areas without power supply and things like that. But what I thought was really, really important was one of the best tools we found were the live cameras that we used. You can see here in the small red circle, it's the camera that we used. The type of camera we used is a Google Nest. And it's just pointed on the outside of the nest box. It provides us with a 24/7 live coverage. We also are able to go back in footage and see what happened the night before when we weren't constantly watching them. The only downfall is that you have to have a constant power and Wi-Fi, which we were able to find by asking people if we could use their yards and their power and Wi-Fi to be able to film this. And we were able to monitor 5 nests that way this season. Okay. And I want to share with you a small clip here that will provide a couple of snippets of what we saw from different different nests. So I'm going to share that with you right now. Okay, are we seeing that okay?
Yep, I got the Lucy's Warbler video.
Okay, great. So I hope it reads well on your screens through Zoom, but if not, I'll make sure that Luke has this link to share with you over email afterwards as well.
Literature states that males accompany females who do the actual nest building, which is what we see here. Oh, changed her mind. And in this video, a rival Lucy's warbler steals nesting material. Sometimes other visitors got captured on the live camera, such as this Anna's hummingbird. Lucy's didn't seem to mind. There was also a house sparrow who visited the nest, but thankfully it was empty at the time because house sparrows can get pretty aggressive. While the female did all the incubating, the male fed her on the nest. You can really tell here that the cap on the female is very faint. You can hardly even see it on here. She looks so cozy. When it's time to feed the hatchlings, it's the job for both parents. It gets pretty crowded as they grow. In this nest, there were 5 chicks. By about day 11, we started to see chicks finally fledge. Check out the shocked faces of the siblings left in the box. Fledging time between chicks varied. Some left within minutes of each other, some within hours, and then some within days. The nests we monitored had chicks leave within 1, 2, and 3 days of each other. We were also able to tell what type of prey items the parents brought back to the nest. For example, this nice big praying mantis. And this green inchworm. We also recorded a couple heart-stopping moments. In this video, we see a stray cat climb the tree to investigate the nest boxes early in the morning. The female was incubating eggs at the time and flew out way before the cat got close. As you can see here, the eggs got a bit shaken around, but none of them fell out and all hatched just fine. When we saw this footage, the homeowner installed baffles and spikes to deter the cat. We didn't see the cat again. I think we can all agree that cats belong indoors. Another time, I noticed that a chick was acting strangely in the nest. While its sibling had fledged earlier that day, this chick was bouncing up and down without making any progress, as if it was being held down by something. I alerted the homeowner, who was able to climb the ladder and free the chick, who was being held down by a piece of hair. The chick then joined the sibling and parents in the tree. Overall, the live cameras have been an excellent tool for studying Lucy's warblers.
All right. So
That is incredible. That's incredible. That was so cool.
I'm glad. It's been really interesting not to only watch them, but also you get really invested in them being successful. But it was also really a powerful tool for us to study every single stage of their nesting, breeding period. So we were able to put together this timeline from the clips. So our sample size is quite small, but still this is really important information, and it will be added to from observations in the future. So if we break it down, the nest building stage took 12 days from the start when they started getting the nesting material into the box to the first day that they started laying eggs. They laid 1 egg a day, and depending on clutch size, that took 3 to 6 days, which on average, they laid 4 eggs in the clutch. Incubation took about 15 days to first hatchling. Hatch to fledge was 11 to 14 days, and fledging is often staggered among chicks, 1 to 3 days, like I mentioned. And the second clutch was about 10 days after the fledging, and they do 2 broods in the season if they can, if there's a good time still left before it gets really hot. So this is all really good information for us to have and to contribute to the understanding of this species. If this inspired you to see more clips from our nests, I recommend that you check out our web pages here. The top link is Lucy Cam, which is the Lucy's Warbler nest that we monitored this season and provided for the public to watch the clips. We also have a Kestrel cam and an owl cam. And we have a YouTube channel that has videos archived from previous years as well for the owl. If you're interested in this project, you can learn more on this link to have the results that I mentioned earlier. I would also encourage people to spread the word about this project and put up a nest box in your yard if you have mesquite trees in your yard or around your yard. Give it as a gift, you know, spread them as far and wide as you can. If you're good with woodworking and tools, we always need nest box builders. So let me know if that's something you would be interested in. We do provide wood and things like that. So now we can move on to the rest of the questions. I think we have awesome timing.
Yeah, actually, you just answered one of them. Donald Johnson was wondering if we needed more boxes made.
Dawn,
And
hi Dawn. Yes, Dawn has made quite a few for us at Tohono Chul too. It's
oh,
awesome.
cool. That's great. Yeah, thanks, Don. So it sounds like we could always use a few more. People love buying them, so they seem to get picked up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and all the proceeds that go from them purchasing it go back exactly into the program itself and helps us to put out more nest boxes into trails around Arizona.
So when we're installing our boxes, is it best to put it on the trunk of the tree or on a branch?
We've had success with both. It depends on how open the area is around the trunk that you're thinking of. I found the best to be on the branch because there's a lot more smaller branches surrounding there, and it provides that security and shade for them as well.
Cool. Hey, Brendan from Desert Woodcrafters says they're ready to start building more too. Thanks,
Hi,
Brendan.
thank you so much. Yes, Desert Woodcrafters have been a force for us to make a lot of nest boxes for the project. So thank you to them for sure.
Yeah, it's just so cool to have so many people involved in this project. It's a real, not just great for the Lucy's Warblers, but it's great for a community builder too within so many different partners here. So that's pretty neat.
Absolutely.
How often do you check the boxes for the boxes that we have out like at Mammoth or Isabella Lee? How often do you go out to check those?
So we check those once a week. We're trying not to disturb them as much during this time, but at the same time, we need the information. And we found that with Lucy's Warblers, they're so quick, as you saw the timeline, that by checking every week, we got a pretty good idea of what was happening. But having the cameras has really helped us fill in the gaps between. But yeah, once a week is how we check them usually.
And Julie asked if a box would attract them on Mount Lemon. So I think they need mesquite trees, right? So anywhere there's mesquite trees?
Yeah, they probably won't go into higher elevation, but there's other nest boxes that would do really well up on Mount Lemon with a lot of great birds, western bluebirds, fletchers, house wrens.
Yep. David asked about whether roadrunners predate on Lucy's eggs or fledglings. Have you noticed any of that before? I'm sure they do, but I don't know if we've noticed any.
Right, roadrunners definitely eat nestlings, and I'm sure if they happen to find a nest and saw a Lucy's go into it, that could happen. But I haven't personally seen an instance, and we haven't caught anything on camera just yet.
Marilyn was wondering if the nest box needs to be cleaned out after the season.
Yes, absolutely. Good question. We do recommend that Lucy's nests and all nests in general get cleaned out after a season because they accumulate little parasites that would not be good for Lucy's warbler nestlings. So if you clean it out, all you have to do is pull out the material where most of that would actually be. You don't have to, spray it out or wash it out. And I would recommend doing that closer to fall, just so you know that definitely they won't use that nest again. But the latest you should do that is February, which they'll be here in March and they'll be looking for a spot. And in the wild, birds don't clean out nests and they have to deal with the parasites. But if we can help it, then we do recommend that you do that.
Cool. If someone wants to share their yard for the study and provides power and Wi-Fi, do you still need places to for live coverage like this?
Yes, we do prefer that the nest box was used previously, the previous year, so that there's a higher chance that the nest box will get used again this year or the year that we're doing the study. That really allows us to catch from the very beginning when they're starting to build the nest to the end, so that we're not moving the cameras too much. But yes, if you do have a nest box in yard and your Wi-Fi reaches that area, then definitely shoot me an email and set something up for next spring.
Cool. We do have, what if someone would want to sponsor the cost of a camera? Do we have enough cameras, or are we going to need to buy more cameras in the future? And if someone wanted to sponsor that, would they just talk with you about that?
So we currently have 3 live cameras for Lucy's warblers. I think the more the better, honestly, because that helps us to increase the sample size. They are on the more expensive side. They're about $200, which is about double of what a trail camera is, but they're so valuable to our effort, being able to go back in footage, and having that night vision and 24/7 coverage is really important. So that would be really awesome. And if you would like to sponsor, please contact me and we can set something up. That would be awesome.
Cool. Tori was wondering if the same birds come back to the nest year after year, and if they mate for life.
No studies have been done for that, and we would have to ban the birds to be able to say anything definitive. Right. But we do have a feeling that it is the same, at least they come back to the same territory, and potentially the birds that have fledged from the same area come back to the area from where they fledged to nest the next year. So it's very possible. And if someone was to do a banding study, that would be an excellent species of choice to find out more.
Yeah, I like to think that they do. We'll make sure to put the link to that video in our follow-up email, so that way everyone can check it out again. Paulus, so sample size was 3. For some reason, I thought 5.
No, it's 5. Yeah, we had 5. They were at various stages. Sometimes where we had to move the camera there as soon as we found out that there was a nest there. For the second brood, they decided to use a different nest box that was nearby instead of reusing the same nest. And we do think that it was the same couple or pair based on observations as well as territory and things like that. But yeah, 5. It's small, but as we go along, we're gonna have a lot more nests to include.
Yeah, and Janelle asked about saguaro boots, and thanks Celeste for answering that question. Celeste does have a couple that use saguaro boots to nest in.
Yeah, so, are they separate from the saguaro, I'm guessing? Yeah, so Lucy's warblers do use saguaro cavities created by woodpeckers. They often either fill it up to make it not as deep, just use a smaller cavity, but there's just a lot of competition for saguaro cavities as it is. So by putting up a nest box that only Lucy's warblers tend to use, that really decreases that competition. But if you have a saguaro boot and it works, I would say absolutely use that, and make sure there's shade on that so it protects them from.
Yep. Marilyn asked about attaching the nest box to the branch. And I think the nest box, I think, comes with instructions, and it's just a couple of screws that you use.
Yeah, I do recommend using screws. There's also a little illustration on the nest box instructions that helps you kind of visualize what I'm talking about. But the screws work best for keeping the nest box from swaying around too much. But if you are not able, would not like to use screws, you can use wire. But you got to make sure that it doesn't sway, and you have to make sure that every year you check it and make sure that there's no breaks or rust or anything like that.
And then Paula asked, what gave you the feeling that fledglings returned to their original area?
I not really so much for Lucy's warblers, but I believe that there have been studies for other birds that that were saying that. So it's possible with Lucy's warblers, but like I said, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Yep.
And it also seems like every year we have more and more nests in our experimental locations. So it's either them finding them a lot better, or the fledglings coming back to their breeding, to their fledging area. So
very good. I think that's all the questions, unless anyone has any more questions, or raise their hand.
if you think of anything, shoot me an email. I'm always happy to talk about it. It's such an exciting, fun project that we have. And this is just a snapshot of what kind of work we do and what we found out. But there's a lot more, and we're excited to do another season of this study, of these studies.
Oh, David asked, ever tried tagging one? Oh, tagging a, you might have to explain that one to me. Tagging a nest box or the Lucy's warbler itself?
Oh, like putting a tracker on a bird or putting a band on the bird. One of those. We haven't, certainly. We don't do any type of banding studies at Tucson Audubon at the time, but it would be an interesting one to do potentially.
Yeah, it would.
It's just a lot. You have to have a lot more permits to handle the birds, and currently we don't have that, but certainly a lot to gain from that information.
Well, thank you so much, Olya. I'm gonna unmute everyone here, so if anyone has any other questions, we'll be on for just a little bit longer. And yeah, Olya, awesome. I especially love the video. Just so fun to watch.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see everyone here. Thank you for tuning in.
Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Olya, thanks so much. We'll make sure to get that website thing in there. What else were we going to put in that email?
The link to Lucy's Warbler webpage.
Yes.
The link to YouTube. I could include a plan and a registration link as well. Might as well.
Perfect.
I'll send that to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Tori, for recording.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tori.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
A lot of people.
Yeah.